You go. Let me take the second break. You know, I discovered that this is the coldest place of the room. That's why I got
I also there's offering days.
Oh, yeah, I turned off when I entered. Go back here.
Again, today there is less. Really? I don't think so. My sister. I would kindly ask you slowly to come inside and take a seat so we can start. It's okay. Good morning, and welcome to the second day of the European Policy Dialogue Forum. After the first day of getting closer to the topic of participation with our speakers in the plenary sessions and discussions in the working groups, today we will be delving even deeper into this issue. Today we will start with one introductory plenary presentation of His Excellency H.E.Daniele Verga, Diplomatic Advisor of the Grand Chancellor of Sovereign Order of Malta, who is joining us virtually. It is a pleasure, Your Excellency, that you are joining us for the forum virtually, and we would like to give you the floor.
Delegates, migration is a complex phenomenon. It has multiple causes and cannot be dealt with the same approach. There are legal migrants with a regular residence, work, study visa, illegal migrants at the mercy of a transnational crime, and the forced migrants fleeing persecution, conflict, natural disaster, epidemics, famine, largely leading to the millions of asylum seekers. It's necessary to act on the root causes of a forced displacement by alleviating dire situations and facilitating legal migration with a consequent reduction in the need to immigrate illegally and in the role played by large-scale organized criminality. There is not only a south-north migration, but also south-south migration involving masses of people in other regional areas. Both vertical and horizontal migration should always be taken with the same universal values and principles, such as respect for human rights and the dignity of the person, generosity, solidarity, and hospitality. Inclusion is a basic requirement for the holistic development of our societies and should be encouraged by governments, parliament, civil society, and religious authorities. On the other hand, we have to bear in mind that globalization and the new technologies such as mobile phones, internet, low-cost flights, social media, and education have almost eliminated the space and the time dimensions that contributed so much to the integration of past masses into the new societies to which they had emigrated in the last 2 centuries. The authorities in all countries of immigration should implement the necessary legislative, economic, social, and educational measures to promote the inclusion of migrants and refugees while respecting their history, culture, and tradition. But dialogue is also needed with those who are the recipients of these measures so that there is a common will to achieve inclusion, mutual understanding, and benefit. Founded in Jerusalem in the 11th century, the Sovereign Order of Malta, a faith-based institution, has a long history of service to the vulnerable and the sick, regardless of their nationality, ethnicity, gender, or religion, in a spirit of solidarity and generosity. Today, the Order of Malta operates in 120 countries, assisting people in need, in particular migrants and refugees, through its medical, humanitarian, and social activities. We acknowledge that migration provides opportunity and benefits for the migrants, host communities, and communities of origin as well. However, when poorly regulated, it can create significant challenges. We believe that raising walls and sealing borders will not lessen the influx of migrants and do not represent far-sighted solution to an epochal phenomenon. Let me mention just a few examples of good practices of the Order of Malta for migrants and refugees in Europe. In Germany, the Order of Malta faces an extraordinary challenge of migrants and refugees integration into local communities. Malteser Werke, a branch of the Order of Malta's worldwide relief agency, carries out integration programs focused on language and education courses, labor market integration, and psychological assistance. Malteser Werke was founded in 1989. Its headquarters are based in Cologne, with over 2,100 employees working across Germany. In over 30 years of work in the field of migration, Malteser Werke has supported more than 1.5 million migrants from more than 75 countries. In 2020 alone, it took care of over 20,000 refugees. Commissioned by state and communal governments, Malteser Werke currently runs over 50 refugees housing facilities all over Germany. This includes state housing, communal housing, as well as housing for unaccompanied minors. Malteser Werke organizes every aspect of the daily life in the housing facilities, ranging from arrival and registration to allocation of rooms, distribution of food, child care, offers in the fields of education, employment, sports, art, music, and much more. Further, they provide separate housing for vulnerable groups to prevent violence and ensure a low-conflict environment. The aim of this project is not only to support people trying to make a new home in Germany quickly, but also to live their life autonomously. In France, Order de Malta France has been running specialized programs since 2014 to aid the populations in the Middle East fleeing from conflict or violence and seeking asylum in France. The program aimed at allowing families to leave emergency accommodation in the hotel, learning French language, informing families about their rights, promoting access to health care, and ensuring compliance with the obligation to attend school, facilitating their social and professional interaction and the integration process. A final remark. The Order of Malta has been promoting cooperative action among religious leaders and faith-based institutions. In this perspective, the Order has recently presented at the G20 Interfaith Forum in Bologna a compact titled Religions in Action, drawn up with the contribution of some Christian and Muslim experts, which may be applicable to other faiths as well. It contains principles and guidelines for the role religious communities and faith-based institutions can play to help resolving crisis situations, mitigating their effect on the communities involved, and improving the supply and distribution of humanitarian aid. These principles could be applied as well in refugees hosting communities in Europe, where religions and faith-based organizations should act together to counter the spread of hatred and violence towards migration and to promote more inclusive and peaceful societies. Religious actors can foster peace, build bridges, and defend life and human dignity. Thank you.
Many thanks, Your Excellency. The work of the Sovereign Order of Malta is really critical, and we appreciate all your efforts. The second introductory remark comes from a local policymaker, Mr. Omar Al-Rawi, who is a member of the Vienna State Parliament and City Council. We're looking forward to hearing from your experience how the participation of refugees and migrants work in Vienna is going, what works well, and what challenges you're facing, and how they can be overcome. We're pleased to have you, and the floor is yours.
Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have today the honor, the privilege, and the pleasure to represent the city of Vienna in this distinguished forum. And as I understood, this should be a kind of inspiration for today's meetings and workshops. And as the lady mentioned, in terms that I'm representing the locals and the cities, I would like to show you or discuss with you or give some thoughts what are really the challenges and the tensions that happens in the world, considering also the problems that not all cities in Europe have the same constitution, and not every mayor in the city in Europe have the same competencies to solve problems. Let's begin with a very famous book written by Benjamin Barber, who said once that the name of the book is "If Mayors Could Rule the World." Just imagine if we not thinking in terms of nations and borders, but if the communities and the cities and the mayors are ruling the world. And in terms that I am elected member in a commission that is responsible for urban planning, social housing, traffic. So my focus is different on how to solve the solutions of people, and he came to the result that the world would be much better. Now, 50% of all the world populations lives in cities, ladies and gentlemen. Within 2030, 75% of all the world population will be living in cities. Now, looking to Vienna as number one in the life quality, very famous city. We're very proud that we have a social housing program, affordable housing, where 61% of all the population in Vienna lives in a household that is subsidized or belongs to the city of Vienna. We're very proud that 52% of the yards are green. We're very proud that we have the concept of city of short distances, social inclusion. I am also the smart city speaker, where we always focus that the city is a social conclusion. And then you have now the tensions between communities and cities that is always focused how to solve the problem of their population. And for us in Vienna, everyone who lives in the city is for us a Viennese, regardless which citizenship he has, regardless where he come from, is he legal or illegal. These are our citizens in the city. So we are focused to solve the problem, to keep the social inclusion and to keep the peaceful living. And on the other hand, you have a federal government, particularly in Austria, also our government, which is seeking to tell all these people, don't come to us. You are a problem for us, we don't need you. We try to make your life as difficult as possible. Maybe you would write to your relatives, don't come to us, that's a terrible place. And we deal in Vienna with these people to give them the impression that you are welcomed, you are a part of us. So in this field, this is one of the big challenges we have. We have in Austria people who are already accepted and recognized as refugees. We have in Austria people who are asylum seekers. Until now, nobody decided what's going to happen with them, maybe 5, 6, 7 years. And after 7 years, they told them, oh, sorry, you have to leave. And then they have kids who were born there, who don't know any other nation. And we have those who are subsidiarian protection, where every year they have a heart attack to know, is it going to be renewed or not. Vienna is a city that is growing. We're growing about 25,000 citizens a year. I know compared to Chinese dimensions, it's nothing, but believe me, for European dimensions, it's a lot. That's within 10 years, the second largest city, Graz, moved to Vienna, if you want to see that. So you have to provide them with living spaces, with all these things. And in the year 2015, 2016, the Vienna city grew by 45,000 due to the crisis and the migration and refugee wave that we had. That's mean it was a big challenge for the social housing system, it was a challenge for the social security system, and you have on the other side a government that tries to make the laws of helping these people in the term of social benefits to keep them down, trying to make it unattractive. But on the other hand, let's be very frankly, Vienna became, due to the migration and due to the people coming to this city, not an aging city, it became not a shrinking city, it became a vibrant, and it's now the youngest city in terms of population of all Austria. Just some facts, 31% of all Viennese are foreigners, that means don't have the Austrian citizenship. 37% of all those in Vienna are not born in Austria. And if we look particularly to the people in the age of 25 to 40 years, so the youngest, the active, 51% have foreign origins. And 15% of foreigners in Austria, in Vienna, could not get the citizenship, not because they can't get it because their income is not high enough due to the regulations and the citizen laws that is implemented by the Austrian government, not to allow them to be part of it. And that's, for example, a big democratic deficit because 30% of all Viennese are not allowed to vote. So how to deal with a democratic system? We tried and we implemented a law years ago in Vienna to allow all who are already living 5 years in Vienna to have access for the domestic elections at least, but unfortunately the right-wing governments went to the law and then they managed to cancel it. This is the tensions that I try to share with you today, maybe as inspiration how to work with it, because sometimes it's very easy and important to know where are the deficits and how can you do that. At the end, I want to share with you two positive initiatives we implemented in Vienna. By the way, 2015 and 16, we managed in Vienna that not one refugee had to sleep outside on the street when they arrived. We managed that not one refugee had to spend its time in parking areas or in the gardens. So the city, due to its very good social system, and due to also the big help of the NGOs, the religious institutions, the church, the mosque, the synagogues, helped a lot to find a solution for these people. And they had access from the day zero to the same schools. Our children goes to the same hospitals, our citizens get their treatment, they got the same kindergartens for them. Now we implemented two things that I would share to you as a good practice model. One was the implementation of the Youth College. What is the Youth College? It was a series of modules for 1,000 participants a year. These are young adults above the compulsory schooling age. This is one of the big problems. Some of the asylum people come till they are allowed to get the children and the wives to them. They are in an age where they don't have to go to school anymore, and then they can't understand what's happening with our second generation. What are we going to do with them? So we implemented this youth college where we prepared these young people by focusing and trying to evaluate what are their strengths, what are their needs, what are their deficits, and with modules like mathematics, English, IT, or German, try to give them the possibility to enter a secondary school or a higher education level, and trying to allow them to participate in vocational training with companies, so they might find a way how to get maybe a job. This youth college is still now working and functioning, because we saw that it's not only important for refugees, it was also important for many other peoples who comes and immigrate to Vienna, and they have these needs. And the second project that we implemented was the core integration Centrum. The project was funded by the European Union, took a very high attention in many nations, and it was a cooperation with the Viennese business agency and with the Fonds Soziales Wien, the social security administration in Vienna. And the target groups were asylum seekers, people under subsidiary protection, and recognized refugees. And interesting by this project, it was not a bottom, but it was a project where we included the NGOs, elderly refugees, elderly migrants groups, and so we tried to have a participation and on the same level to talk to them and try to find for them possibilities, how to include them, how to participate them in the society. For example, two examples. One of the project is we seeked of all people, refugees from Syria, who were teachers in their nation, in their country in Syria, and we tried with the University of Vienna to get them in a courses to earn pedagogic possibilities. The problem is that in Austria, the law says that every teacher has to have 2 subjects where he teaches. Most of those came, he's either only English teacher or only mathematics, but in Austria you have to have two places, so we tried to help them to complete the other thing, so they were included as teachers in our schools. And also there was a project where we seeked for people who were working in the health institutions and the nursery, and then we managed with the courses to get them be a part of the system in Austria, and also to help the many doctors, physicists who came to Austria who were not nostrificated by their study to be able to study. But we got, of course, a big problems 2017 when there was a when the government switched from a middle-left government to a right government. Then the laws were ended, so the apprentices, we had a lot of people who were taught and taught for a job in the companies were not allowed because the law changed and was not allowing asylum seekers who were not granted or accepted as the refugee status, they were not allowed to make this training. So these are the tensions that we're working for, and I hope that my words were a little bit inspiration how governmental communities could help and try to solve the problems, but this you can only do if your law in the country allows local authorities to have some possibilities by the law to do that. In the city of Vienna, the hospitals are part of the city, the kindergartens are part of the city administration, the social housing, all these things are part of them, so you can implement it. What do you do if the competencies in some cities and regions don't have this possibility? I hope this was a little bit inspiration for today's meetings and in the workshops, and thank you for your patience and thank you for listening to my words. Thank you very much.
Many thanks to Mr. Al-Rawi. The city of Vienna is doing very important work in the social inclusion of refugees and migrants, and there is much to learn. Thank you very much for your input and for providing inspiration for the start of our working sessions, which will be our main focus today. We have 2 working sessions today, and I believe that the inspiration that we received from this short introductory plenary will allow us for a successful day ahead. To build more inclusive societies where refugees and migrants actively participate, it is necessary to enhance their contribution to existing policies. In the 2 working sessions, our aim is to make such contribution in dialogue with all of you by gathering relevant inputs from your fields of expertise and experiences drawn from your European, national or local context. Together, we will collect different inputs and later on cluster them as the policy recommendations which will be presented in the closing plenary session. I would kindly ask you to join your respective working group now and continue in designated rooms for each group. So basically the same room you have been participating yesterday. After the lunch break, we will have a special session that is entitled Informal Networking Dialogue Café, which is also taking place in this plenary hall, so we are warmly inviting you to join. I wish you fruitful and inspiring discussions today, and I invite you now to go to your respective room. Your session will start in some 5 minutes, so please go straight to your room with facilitators that will lead you there. Thank you very much and wishing you a good and productive day. All the best.